Did Apple bite off more than they can chew with their reality headsets? Could Google stay on track with Apple's AirTags? And does the new Mac Mini pack a punch? With all that and more, we unveil it in this week's Apple-sode of Stern's Tech Talk. That is correct. We have a lot of awesome news for you guys. The last week has been a major one for Apple. I know that I and JD, especially JD, are pretty excited about what Apple has brought to the table. Before that, we did want to give you guys an update on our predictions from last week about who would win the divisional. JD almost got a home run on this one. He got 3 out of 4. I think I got just one right. The teams that will move on to the conference championships will be KC, Bengals, Eagles, and the 49ers. I mean, it makes sense. He has had a lot of experience with watching football for the last 20 or so years, and I only just started last year, so hats off to you, sir.
Yeah, and honestly, Jacksonville almost pulled that one off. So
they did. I felt bad.
I was
bad
a
for
little
Trevor.
bummed by that. And honestly, it was partly a prediction, partly just me wanted to see Jacksonville take out KC. So they were great games this past weekend, so I'm really excited to see what comes this next weekend. With me, I'll probably take Cincinnati. I'm really confident about that one. And then as far as the Eagles and the Niners, that one I'm not really sure about. I really think I've been pegging that one to kind of be a pre-Super Bowl because it's a really tough matchup, and I guess it's almost like I'm not even really sure which one because it's so close. So I would guess I'd give it a little bit of an edge to the Eagles, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners pulled it off. So officially, I pick Philly.
Well, actually, I was going to kind of say the opposite of what you originally had. I was going to say that KC and Cincy, that was going to be the pick that was going to be like... This
is what got you into trouble last week.
Well, it is. Well, no, because this is the thing. Like, I was actually thinking about this earlier today, and
okay.
I was telling my wife, I feel like Cincy and KC would be the hard one. I feel like the Eagles would win on that one. I feel confident they would win, actually, over 49ers. So, but you're probably right. You'll probably win this one. But we'll see.
So you do have KC and Philly?
No, well, if I was going to say who would win on the AFC... See, that was the one that it's hard for me, but I'm going to probably say KC.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean...
Yeah, so with that, we'll actually get right into the news for this week. And just as a preface, we did try to give some variety to this show, but with a lot of these products being released from Apple, it was kind of hard not for it to be an Apple episode. So... but we'll get started off with Google. So for the last 10 years, we've actually seen a growing number of people using trackers to help locate lost items. Tile had been the ultimate pioneer, and then Apple seemingly became the perfecter. However, now we have rumors based on OS coding that Google will be the next company to introduce their version of AirTags, or at least so it hints, because we also know that Samsung is kind of on the horizon. Yeah, so this product could be quite effective considering that there are 3 billion active Android users that Google could essentially use to its advantage in competing against the mass-produced AirTags. So that's they're going to work essentially the same way as the AirTags do, kind of feeding off of Bluetooth on an Android phone. They kind of upload their geolocation and allow you to see where that item is. So
okay,
I think it's really good because aside from Tile, Android really didn't have too many products that it could use to track. And it's not just for the competition, but I'm actually interested to see how well Google executes this. So
yeah, I mean, that's a great addition there. I'm glad they've added that, because I was kind of hoping when Google was actually going to officially do that.
Yeah, it was expected.
I mean, I knew it was going to happen eventually, but I'm glad at least we're seeing that now, because they seem to be kind of... It seems like now that you said that, I'm really thinking like they're almost balancing each other out in a sense. Like, We heard rumors.
Yeah,
Apple's
they're not
gonna do a
afraid
folder
to
flip,
actually
but-
see what what the other company is
Yeah.
doing, and then kind of repeat it in their own, ecosystem. So
Yeah, so that's good. We'll have to see how that works out. On the next thing we got on our list today is the HomePod, and this is where we really get into the main Apple news. And this is the HomePod second generation, and no one's gotten really a hold on it yet, but I'll just break down the specs right here. It does have the 4-inch high extrusion woofer. It has 2 less loaded tweeters than the last one, and each tweeter has its own neodymium magnet. It does have advanced computational audio with system sensing for real-time tuning, and it has room sensing. And then spatial audio with Dolby Atmos for music and video, and stereo pair capable. So a lot of
so you
major
could use it
additions.
like on a TV set.
Yeah, and I actually did watch the video showcasing it, and it looked pretty good. I do have my own opinions as far as differences between the original one and this one. For example, they have the exact same price. I mean, you saw when they first released it, there really wasn't a whole lot of success with it, so they had to drop the price from $350 to $300. Still wasn't that successful, so they discontinued it. In my opinion, honestly, it's okay. I think it's definitely better in terms of specs and quality in that sense. I just think I feel like you could decrease the price a little bit more. I think then users would be able to get into the sort of HomePod a little bit more. But I mean, that's just my own thoughts about it. But
Yeah, I think I'll actually, I think I'll do my own testing. Really, I'd like to get the HomePod Mini again, and then actually get another HomePod second generation, and just kind of see how that sounds, because I think the price is worth seeing the differences, if there is anything noticeable, which it sounds like there should be.
yeah, it does.
But that's quite a noticeable price for me. I think I get where you're coming from. I really feel like that $200 difference between the second gen HomePod and the Mini is definitely worth seeing what the audio discrepancies are, where they improved on the bigger speaker, and if it is worth buying over the smaller one, because I actually had them in the past, and I like them. I didn't really think they were worth keeping technically, but I think that's because I have Sonos, so I'm a little more...
Yeah, you're a little more advanced.
Immersed. Yes. So one thing to note is if you do buy that HomePod and you've enabled advanced data protection on iOS 16.3, which actually was released today, Monday, from Apple, included some minor updates, wallpaper, bug fixes, and some other minor improvements. So you could run into a problem with updating it and potentially pairing it. So that was something that was brought to our attention via Mark Gurman. We'll actually post a link for you in the description below, directing you towards Apple's website for their support on how to mitigate that issue, which is pretty simple. You just plug it into either a Mac or a PC. And if you're on a PC, you just open up iTunes and then go from there. So something worth noting if you kind of run into that trouble and wondering what the heck do I do, that should definitely be able to help you out. Next thing we're actually moving on to is not really a product that was released from Apple, is the MacBook Air for the M3. This one could actually be running on a 3nm chipset and actually boosting performance along with power efficiency. So something that we've heard rumored from Ming-Chi Kuo, that the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro would also be updated with a 3nm M3 Pro and M3 Max chip in 2024, which is obvious based on Apple's timeline. But I'm actually looking forward to seeing what this MacBook Air can do later on in the year. I'm not sure if you actually were a big fan of the previous MacBook Air changes with the M2, or if you're just kind of indifferent about that.
I'm kind of indifferent. I mean, not really
a lot of people don't like the notch.
I'm
I'm like, I really don't care.
Well, now there's Face ID, or there will be Face ID on this next one, right? Okay. That's what I heard, but I guess maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, okay. That would be cool.
That would,
But
yeah, but I mean,
yeah, I mean nothing extremely amazing, but the fact that they're dropping down to a 3-nanometer processor is pretty impressive, especially with the A17, which is expected to be in the iPhone 15 Pro models later this year.
Yeah, that is good. I haven't really been following the Air that much, though, but at least they are making updates to it, so that is good to hear.
Yeah, they're trying to make it relevant, so yeah.
Yep. And then moving along with that, we do have some information from Mac Rumors about Apple's mixed reality headset. And it turns out it will have features similar to iOS. Not exactly a shocker, but it would integrate functions close to that of an iPhone and an iPad, while also being able to utilize a user's Mac display. We also have more info that Apple is not going to be utilizing any controllers at all. Instead, the outside of the VR headset will be using cameras and sensors to indicate hand movement and gestures. Apple is also working with Disney Plus and with the bonus of using Apple TV Plus so users can watch movies and shows from their headset. And to move on to kind of go along with the iPhone and iPad stuff, you'll be able to use Face ID, messages, all the stuff that you normally be able to use on your iPhone and such. So that's pretty much all we had in terms of the headset. Again, I wasn't really shocked by this info because I assumed that Apple was already going to integrate, iOS in a sense. I guess the only thing that is kind of major is the, hand gestures and stuff without any controllers. But
that's really what threw me there because we've seen that integrated into previous operating systems. Not even Apple. This was something that came along with the Google and their whole entire hand gestures on the Pixel line. And so I
thought you were going to talk about the Microsoft Kinect thing, the Xbox Kinect. I thought that's what you were going to mention.
Yeah, but that wasn't that bad, was it?
Not really. This would literally have to be so precise in terms of your finger movement.
That's what I mean. It really has to, and that's the other thing is they have to have a processor that's really on par, which I know Apple can do that.
It's just going to cost a lot more money than we thought, probably.
It is this, yeah, and I think that price expectation is going to be either on par or above what we're anticipating here. It's really hard to say because it's going to be into. Yeah, I thought we were going to hit a high.
I thought the high was going to be about 2,000, but it might start.
I thought the high. I can't remember. I think we brought it up on a previous episode. I think it was going to be around maybe 15 to 17 on the low end, and then I felt like it was going to hit around 23, somewhere in there possibly. Maybe I'm wrong, but. Who knows? We could be hitting 25, maybe 28 from what it sounds like out of all that, this technology is expected to introduce with this headset. So, yeah, I read that article or at least part of it, and you should be able to switch between the AR and the VR, which allows you to, like you said, work with the Mac OS or display it on there. Really cool stuff. I like it.
I just feel like
I know.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I just feel like maybe Apple's biting off more than they can chew. Maybe just a little bit.
That is so ironic.
Because their Apple logo is literally a bite.
The apple is actually biting off more than they can chew the fruit. Okay, I'm sorry. I took that. That was like an unintended pun that just went out the door.
Yeah, it did. I wasn't even intending for it, so then I realized what I said.
I know.
But yeah.
I know. Yeah, I'm just not really sure how popular this would be because a lot of people would be having to dig deep into their pockets to actually purchase one of these suckers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just these things are going to be. I don't know. Maybe this might be another Apple Watch Ultra where it was lower than expected. But let's face it, based on what we're seeing here in these articles, I think it's going to be a big number, and I'm not really too impressed by that because I would rather have something that competes in the same line as even just the second generation Sony headset, which is, from what I've heard, is pretty impressive that they released here or announced at I think it was CES that they announced that. So speaking of CES though, we did have something that there was so much that went on during that event, and we didn't really have a chance to break it all down. Some of this stuff is kind of just trickling along. from episode to episode. But Samsung had some concepts for future foldables that were revealed, and one of them that I felt like was really impressive was the flex in and out display. So evidently this model is actually supposed to not just fold, but actually slide, and it's paired with the ability to fold in a 360-degree manner, but also have a sliding screen off to the side. So this is actually a pretty impressive concept. I think they've labeled it as like the Flex Hybrid. I don't think anything was necessarily said as to whether this concept would actually hit the mainstream, but even if it doesn't, just the fact that they're toying around with this is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and the cameras, it looks like it's on like the front, and they're in like a weird triangular shape. That is like, it's not really been done like that before, but man, that is incredible.
Yeah, I think it's pretty impressive. Obviously, we'll have the link in the description.
Yeah.
And there's when you read the article, that first sentence will have CES, Samsung, both highlighted. And then it also has both fold and slide highlighted. Click that link, and it'll actually bring you to a YouTube video that highlights what that device can do. And
sick.
I don't know. It is, yeah. It's
like,
just
I don't even know how many words
got
to
something
describe
different
that,
to it.
but
It's a combination of it's like you were saying, it's that combination of the LG rollable with your average flippable device, plus the fact that it can go backwards all the way on its axis. So
yeah, I'm glad Samsung's taking this stride for sure. I mean, just to see that is like shows you how
just
far we've
innovating.
come.
They just keep on going.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's incredible. Well, I don't know if we can top that, but we might be able to here.
We'll try.
Moving on to the next thing here, and this is in regards to the Mac Mini. First off, this thing is packed to the brim with some exciting upgrades and additional features. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that we are thoroughly impressed with the new capability of this Mini. The actual keynote began with showing us tech tubers and creators displaying their amusement with this model. The reality is that this Mini packs a punch when it comes to performance. So we'll begin with the memory. The new Mini now has a bigger expansion memory, going from 16 gigabytes to 24 gigabytes of DDR5 and an 8-core CPU, which is 18% faster than the Mac Mini M1, and now up to a 10-core GPU, which is 35% faster than its predecessor as well. This also has a 40% faster neural engine. So from what they say and what these specs seem to indicate, is that it doesn't matter what kind of mainstream pro codec you're using, it runs incredibly smooth. I mean, I'm sure you saw like the videos on how just amazingly incredibly this performance was.
Yeah, and that wasn't even the MacBooks yet. So this is
no, we're not even at the MacBooks. No.
Yeah.
And then it has 2 additional USB-C ports, which I know you're very excited about.
Yeah, I was actually really excited to see that. The sad part is that when I found out you had to upgrade to the M2 Pro to receive those 2 extra Thunderbolt ports, I was a little bit irked by that, just because I was hoping that they would offer that at the base model, with a $500 price tag, which means that you'd actually have to spend $1,300 to actually get those 2 extra ports. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with the M2 Pro series and how it's able to drive those extra ports. So, all in all, I have mixed feelings about that. I am glad that they're considering, the difficulty of having 2 less ports, but at the end of the day, I understand the technology behind it. So
it's annoying. Yeah.
It is annoying, but moving on.
So that was it in terms of upgrades. The Mac Mini with the M2 does start at just $599, and if you are a student, you get $100 off of it, which brings it to $500. Just saying that out loud is unreal. I mean, I tested JD's M1 Mac Mini, and that thing is faster than anything I've ever used. But now you have that M2 chip in there in a low price tag. It's just amazing to me. But it doesn't just stop there with the M2. We also have the M2 Pro.
Yeah, we do have the M2 Pro, and it actually has up to 4 additional cores and up to 9 additional graphics cores, which is a little odd. No pun intended, actually. But the fact that they actually gave you an odd number of GPU cores, I just thought like that doesn't normally happen. But hey,
No.
I guess that extra GPU core, instead of 18, you're getting 19. So, but they do give you up to 4 additional terabytes of storage on those models, and then you get up to 32 gigs over 24 gigs of RAM on the M2 versus the M2 Pro. So I'm really impressed by this stuff. The fact that they gave us 2 additional Thunderbolt ports, they gave us the option to have an M2 Pro in a Mac Mini is just as impressive. And the M2 Pro actually starts at $1,300, which it's up there. But that's really if you want to get some big time use and you don't want to go to like a MacBook or even like a studio.
Yeah, it's still worth it because it's way smaller,
I feel like
compact, and you're getting about the same as you would in a MacBook. So, I have to tell you, I love my Mac Mini. It's the first Mac that I've ever actually owned, and yeah, I'm sure you do. It's the first one that I've actually owned and kept because I've tested a lot of Macs in the past, and this one I just use as just a daily runner for my Plex server. So it does a great job, and then obviously Riley and I use it for rendering and stuff for our show. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they're dropping it $100 is so impressive because it's going back to 2005 when Steve Jobs announced the first Mac Mini, and that was at $499. So we're $100 above where we started. Yeah.
Over 15 years ago, almost 20.
And the specs have drastically increased.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is impressive. And all in that little compact body is just something to revel in, and all the performance that it can give you. So there were actually, when I was on YouTube and other social media, there were actually people that were a little irritated that they didn't update the design. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I really don't see this is a timeless computer. The design, it's streamlined, it's basic, it's compact. There's no need to mess with it. So I think one of them, I don't really like calling people out, but Apple Insider, Sam, he was kind of a little disappointed by it, and I just had to kind of disagree with him. I was just like, I really don't see the point in actually updating the design, because in that sense, it could force you to raise the price instead of lower it.
Yes.
And you're giving the consumer out there the ability to get on the ground floor of owning a Mac. And I just feel like that's a major I feel like that's a pivotal point in competition against other computers out there and desktops.
Oh yeah, sure. I also think you see that every time when Apple changes the slightest thing from a notch to a dynamic island. It's like $100, $200 increase, and it's like every time they change an external feature, or even sometimes an internal feature, which makes sense, that there is that price hike. And yeah, I totally agree with you right there, JD. It's like
they're boosting performance and decreasing price. I mean, who expects that? That is not the trend.
Right.
So
it's like,
and the other thing that people have to keep in mind is that there are so many big time companies out there that use these as servers.
Yes, exactly.
And when you change the design, you have like a whole rack of these Mac Minis that the rack is worthless. You have to redesign everything and update it to the new design of a Mac Mini. And so people have to remember that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And let's say that, the price doesn't go up. That Mac Mini, the way that it's looked, has stood true for the last 15 years or so, 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I would say closer to about 10 years, because that's when we've kind of gotten more to the flat design versus somewhat of a cube.
Yeah, so it's changed every now and then, but not to its actual core, look and appearance in a sense, right? So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
the reason to change it right now, I don't see it at all. And honestly, if you're looking at it from an exterior perspective and on interior, I think there's a little something wrong with you. Because I
think the interior is what matters more to people. The only thing I really cared about, like I said, was the I/O.
Yeah.
But if you're just trying to change it, one commenter said that if you're just trying to change it for the sake of changing, just don't do it. You know, the old mantra says, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I was just gonna say that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't really care that it didn't come in a different color or anything like that. 90% of the time it's just on the desk looking nice. So
don't even notice it. You're mostly like, if you have a MacBook, you probably care more about the color, but if it's just to the side, no one's really going to look at it a whole lot, then
you're going to pay attention to your 32-inch ultra wide screen.
For sure. With the like 6K, like,
right? Yeah.
But yeah.
Moving on to the MacBook.
Yep. Sorry. And yeah, you're good. And I'll say this, I'm actually not as excited about this one. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am still impressed with Apple's strides to improve their models year in and year out. And I am quite pleased with what they have here with all the updates and such. But I do think that mini was the cherry on top, at least for the beginning of this year.
Absolutely.
I think it exceeded Apple's expectations. This right here was to be expected. It is the standard. Yes. And that's kind of where I differ from these two. Again, not hating on this device, but I just did want to put my own 2 cents in it. I don't know if you had any other different thoughts before we get the specs here.
No, I mean, these stepping stones are expected from Apple based on what they're doing with their M series. I really don't think that there's anything, you know, too shocking about, you know, these strides, like you said, that they're making. So
yeah. So we'll go ahead and head right into the specs here. So with the M2 Pro, we start with 10-core CPU and a 16-core GPU. You get 16 gigs of unified memory and a 512 SSD storage. It has a 15-core neural engine. And for the external features, it does have 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, HDMI port, and an SDXC card slot. Does have a headphone jack and obviously the MagSafe 3 port. This will start at $19.99, and then for an extra $500, you can get a 12-core CPU and a 19-core GPU with another 500 gigabytes to get you to 1 terabyte of solid-state drive storage.
Yeah, there's a lot there. They give you a lot of variants and configurations to work with, which is good because it customizes it to the user's preference.
Yeah, and actually, just to add what you were saying, actually, this is where I am okay with there being multiple variants for a device. Right? Because, like...
It's internal performance.
Yes, it's multiple different steps, but you can choose which one of those you want on your device instead of being multiple devices that go into different steps. Like, this is the way that I agree with Apple doing this right here. So, the SSD, the cores, the memory.
The sky is virtually the limit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. So, you continue to have that 12-core CPU with the M2 Max. I think you were mentioning that the Pro ends, you can get it in a 12-core configuration, but it doesn't actually...
Yes, you can get in 12-core. That's the next step up,
Yeah, versus I think the M1 Pro and Pro Max, they started at an 8 and then ended at a 10.
Yep.
Storage configurations really haven't changed. You can get it up to 8 terabytes. The RAM, however, that has changed. You can get it up to 96 gigs of RAM versus 64.
Radical.
I think you would blow through so much rendering with that crap.
Oh,
It's just imagine how much you could just do. The programs you could have open, all the stuff that would be in the back.
I mean, JD tends to have get like, up to 70 tabs open at once just to show off to me sometimes.
I'm a
he
tab
loves
hog.
to keep tabs open. He's like our mom.
I like to keep tabs on people. No, yeah, and these run at 200 gigabits memory bandwidth, so really impressive specs here. And then I think it was a decent bump. I wouldn't say it's amazing. Was you get 6 additional graphics cores as a max, 38 versus 32 on the previous M1 series. Outside of that, you're still continuing to get the 16-core neural engine.
Yep.
1080p FaceTime camera. Their speakers are just industry leading in my opinion. I love them on some of the Macs that I tried out. They're very impressive. So. Yeah, the only thing I did want to mention, or at least hit on for future Macs, and actually this applies to iPhones and iPads, is that we can expect some improvements on the displays. Per Mark Gurman, Apple's actually working on their micro LED technology. They've been working on this for quite a few years, and we are expecting to have that hit Apple Watch Ultra in 2024. And then from there on, it's going to expand to the iPhone, the iPad, and then eventually the Mac. So that's something I'm actually looking forward to, just because I always like to see the displays improve. Years ago we had the LCDs, and then we moved over to the Retina displays. So things are definitely looking up as far as the whole screen real estate, and I'm looking forward to seeing the micro LED take its place in Apple's portfolio. So all that said, we do hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, as well as comment down below if you're listening on YouTube. We're always interested to hear your thoughts and opinions on the topics we cover for each episode. You can always also catch us on Twitter and Facebook, and we'll definitely be back next week for more news and updates. This is JD and Riley signing off.
Peace out.